This morning on Inside the Game, the Northern Guard just put Detroit City FC on notice. Our top 5 U.S. Women's National Team moments of all time. And the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association have released the top teams in all 4 divisions for Week 1. That and much more coming up right now.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Good morning. It is Monday morning. It is episode number 144. I'm Jonathan Turner. That's Nathan Wangler, and we're live here in our Metro Detroit studios, Shelby Township in Grand Rapids. And good morning, Mr. Nathan Wangler.
What's up? There's
Not
a lot
much,
to
not
talk
much.
about. What up, though? Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. So had some great conversations last week. You know, I was posting up some of those clips Elliot Leonard was on. He was a great guest, by the way. We're going to have more of that conversation coming up on our social media, but head of recruit fluency. I love that conversation we had on Friday, man. That was really good. I like talking about the D1 or bust mentality, kind of the monopoly of college soccer recruiting, which it really has become over recent years. And I didn't know this personally, but he opened my eyes to a lot of things. So, yeah, a lot of good conversations to have, a little drama surrounding Detroit City FC. And obviously, you know, in naming it USA Soccer Week, you got a lot to talk about there. And I'm excited to talk more about the women's team because we got the World Cup coming up in 2027 too. So I think sometimes we get lost in what's going on in 26 and we forget to talk about 27 sometimes. So they're looking to get back to the top of the heap in that regard. So a lot of good stuff to cover, a lot of good stuff going on. I personally had a good week. Caps won all their games, so just getting ready for the postseason, man. It's baseball is such a long season. Once you get to the final few weeks, you're like, all right, let's just get to the good stuff. Let's get to the interesting games. Let's get to all that. But we're getting there slowly but surely. But things have been great on this side. Excited for another fun week.
Me as well. We are joined by our producer this morning, Mr. Nathan Turner. Ryan Glinsky not here this morning. But Nathan, man, first off, how you doing, dude?
I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, you turned your sound on. You're good?
Yeah.
Nice. See, this is
good
good,
to go.
man.
He's
So
rolling.
Nathan, my son, is our producer today, and he is handling all production here. Think about that. He is 14. He will be 15 here in October. But think about that. We have a 14-year-old producer this morning,
Captain,
running
man.
the whole show.
Running the show.
Look at that.
Looks like he just woke up 15 minutes ago, but that's okay. I mean, he's doing his thing, so it's all right.
He's like, I'm out.
It's like, I'm done. Actually, I'm leaving right now. So you
That's
guys
right.
have
He's
fun.
I'm out of here. I'm out of
Yeah.
here. Hey,
guys-
you know, we
yeah.
we have a good show lined up. We have a good week lined up for you. It is U.S. Soccer Week here on Inside the Game, so we'll dive into everything related to U.S. Soccer. Today is U.S. Women's National Team top 5 moments of all time. We'll get into that here in our second segment. You know, I had a chance this weekend on Saturday to go to a Detroit City FC match. We've gone before. I've gone in a professional role, you know, with the media. I've gone before that with my family here many years ago, and we went obviously here on Saturday. And which I think will, for me, paying attention to the game in that game, and there's a lot that happened in that game too. I think is important. Like, and I'll get into all that. But you know, from my first time ever going to Detroit City FC match, I could sense a difference on Saturday. Because when we went the first time here back, I want to say it was 2018, somewhere in there. Right before COVID, we had gone as a family. And I remember going, my goodness, like I can't take my kids here. Like it's pretty rough. not like rough in the sense that like it's a bad area. I mean,
Yeah.
Hamtramck, where it's located, is a pretty cool area, and it's historic, and there's nuances to that. But the environment that's been created by the Northern Guard is one that if you're not prepared, like bring earmuffs, like earmuffs, right? From old school, right? Earmuffs. Well, we did not bring earmuffs, and we were taken back. And it wasn't like a thing that was like a shocker, like, oh my God, they're tearing. No, they're just saying I'd never been to an event where swearing was a thing, and but to this extent, at least, we talk about being at the Silverdome and the bleachers once upon a time. And watching all that kind of stuff. But what the Northern Guard does for Detroit City FC has been really nothing short of remarkable. And, with their statement yesterday, we'll get into that here, like I said, here in a little bit. But it's something that I will remember very vividly from Saturday that was missing. But it's still a great event. It's funny. Nathan, I'm obviously, we're in production, and so I pay attention to cameras. I pay attention to all that stuff. And so Saturday we get to the stadium. We get there about an hour before kickoff, and we're walking around, whatever, and take our seats, and we're watching the first half. The first half comes to an end, and I'm looking at the camera operator off to my right, just as halftime is about to restart back up again, and he is starting to put on a weather thing for his camera. Right? You could see, and I look up on their cameras, and I see them doing the exact same thing. I'm like, I looked at my wife and go, and then I looked at my phone. I go, oh crap, there's a storm coming. I'm like, and if you've ever been to Keyworth Stadium, there's if you go to a lot of stadiums in the country, there's a place you can go to if it starts to get bad. You go hang out in the concourse. There's no concourse at Keyworth.
No, yeah.
It's there's a stadium, right. There's this little overhang, and that's it. And we had to park 0.7 miles away from the stadium, right? So that, there's not a lot of, there's parking, but so we had to walk. So I'm going, guys, we need to go. Right now. We need to go. And so we get our stuff, we got out of there. This game went to a 2-hour delay.
Oh my goodness.
It was pouring, they cleared the stadiums. I'm like,
ooh.
We got home. We were dry. It was great. Anyways, so a lot to talk about this morning. We'll get into all of that, but coming up here, we'll talk about the Northern Guard and how they put Detroit City FC on notice. We'll read that statement off and all that coming up here on the other side of the break. You're watching episode 144 of Inside the Game.
Flint City Bucks are Michigan's top soccer franchise with 4 national championships, 9 conference titles, and 15 Great Lakes Division titles. They have produced 107 players for Major League Soccer, and they focus on attracting top talent and shaping soccer's future. Michigan Bucks Academy joins MLS Next new competition tier starting in September of 2025. This offers elevated levels of play and flexibility for high school participation. The Academy will provide premier development, high-performance training, and exposure to scouts through regional tournaments and MLS Next events. For more information on tryouts, training programs, and key updates as we prepare for our first season in MLS Next new tier, visit MichiganBucksAcademy.com.
Welcome back here into Inside the Game, number 144. And before we dive into this Northern Guard and Detroit City FC, got to do it, not because I have to, because I want to. All right, that's an important thing to say. I've been married for now going on, it'll be 18 years here in May. But my wife is celebrating her birthday today. And so I want to wish my wife a happy birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old she is. That's not something we can do, right? We're not going to do that. But happy birthday, Bianca. Nathan is here too, her son. So this is a great chance for you on national TV to tell your mother happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wow, that's it? That's all you got? You got any more than that?
What?
Like-
I love you. Happy birthday.
Boom.
There we go.
Yes,
All
can I get
right.
the I love you?
Hey, that's what we were. That's what we were looking for. Good. You got it.
Oh boy. But happy
You guys got
birthday,
any plans for that
Bianca.
at all?
Huh?
You got any plans for that at all?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
You got any plans for Bianca at all?
Well, we have parent meeting tonight for the daughter swim team. So
boy.
that's at
Okay.
I think
All
5:30. So if we are
That's the
going to do
birthday
anything, it's going to be a
festivity?
later dinner. So
Okay. All right. All right. This is checking in. There's a lot of August babies, man. I'm an August baby. We got a bunch at the ballpark.
my
What were our
best
parents
friend
doing in
yeah,
December, man.
yeah,
I mean, I
everyone's
guess
got
that
birthdays
was
in
the- that
August,
was the
man.
time.
It's getting nutty. So, but again, obviously, happy birthday. Love you, Bianca. Hope you have a wonderful day today. It's crazy because we were just, as you get older, and you probably on some level experience this too, being that you just turned the bright old age of 29 here this past week, right?
First time.
Is that birthdays don't feel the same when you become an adult. They just feel different. They hit different. And it's not like a
Yeah.
bad different. I don't think it's bad. I mean, it's just
No.
like when you're a kid, it's all magical and there's gifts everywhere. And now it's like, who's going to forget about me? It's like, there's a list.
Yeah.
There's a list. Who forgot me? this
Yeah.
year?
Yep. Yeah. And some people still have their birthday freaking weeks and they go out and do something extravagant. It's not that I'm trying to hide my birthday ever. I'm just like, I don't take myself that seriously. I was born so many years ago today, and that's a good thing. And if you say happy birthday, hey, great. If you don't, also not a big deal. Hell, if it wasn't for Facebook, I wouldn't remember birthdays to begin with, at least the majority of them, because I don't know. Thank God we don't live in a generation where we have to write everyone's birthday down on a calendar, because I'd be screwed, right? And that was the old generation before we had social media. So I'm sure I have forgotten before, people have forgotten, but yeah, from now on, I'm not giving out my age anymore. This is it. It's the last year.
That's it.
I'm going to be 29 for the next 30, 40 years or whatever it is.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's dive into this Northern Guard announcement here. They put Detroit City FC on notice here, and here's the reason why. They're saying poor treatment of club legends, poor communication, poor performances on the pitch, no banners, no smoke, just another stale U.S. environment. So what they're saying is because of those three things, they are not going to be their normal self here at matches moving forward. And they don't have a timeline on this. And really what this stems from is we'll go through these grievances kind of one by one. The treatment of club figures, so Trevor James and Tiffany Ebert-James, were a big part of their USL championship growth. Head coach, general manager, his wife was also part of the organization, doing a lot of the player management type things that go along with that. And about a week and a half ago, he said he was stepping, maybe 2 weeks ago now, I believe when it was, took a step back. Said, we're stepping away from all of this, and left the team. Obviously, his wife did as well. And the Northern Guard not happy with the club's statement in regards to that and really kind of the send-off. I think that there's a couple things that I think that are important when you start talking about people leaving. Are people not happy or wanting to walk away or whatever? I'll tell you this right now, Nathan, it's not an easy thing for an organization to handle the public aspect of letting somebody go and or that person choosing to leave if they're leaving on what would be considered to be not so good terms, right? I would imagine that you're trying to walk this line. And right now, in the history of Detroit City FC, there's this big thing that's happening right now where hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent. And the last thing that I think that Detroit City FC wants any turmoil that could create a problem for their growth. So I think there's a balancing act that has to happen it does happen. And I think that's obviously plays into probably why there's a lack of something or considering not enough by others. I'm not saying what they're doing is right or wrong. I'm just saying that might shine a light on as to why they're not sharing something.
Yeah.
I think that might be reason number one. But again, if you're the Northern Guard, who is the supporters group, you love this organization. You are putting your heart and soul every single week. I mean, if you ever look they have their own app, right? Northern Guard has their own app. You can figure out what the songs they're going to be singing and their chants they're going to be doing. They actually have them all scheduled out. It's a whole process, or as they say across the border, a process. But so you put your heart and soul into this thing. You dedicate time, money, and energy, and all you want from your club is, one, to be heard, and two, to make an acknowledgement that they exist. I think those two things are paramount in any fan group. I think the rest is all kind of whatever. But I think those two things, and so what this tells me is they don't feel that way. They don't feel like they were given any notice. They don't feel like the club did what they were supposed to do in regards to this information. And here we are. The second thing in this, I know you're going to comment as well, declining communication standards. They're saying that the communication at Detroit City is not where it needs to be. The statement alleges a continued degradation of communication from the club, from proofreading and mailing list to injury information. NGS argued it should not be up to a player to disseminate their own injury news to fans in a professional football club. So they're saying communication is an issue. Now, I can tell you that I've experienced that. We experienced that here at the National Soccer Network. We have a hard time getting press releases from Detroit City. We sometimes we get one, and then out of nowhere we don't get one, and then we go for 3 weeks and we don't get one, and then we get another one. It's almost like they're changing the list constantly. And this is not in any way, shape, or form a thing against Detroit City, but it's like we don't get press releases. We ask for them. We've filled out all the necessary paperwork.
It should be public information. Yeah, exactly.
On-field performance. Now, this one, I mean, of all the ones that they're talking about, this one might have, I think, I don't know how much control that they have over this, but we saw it in Kansas City with Pete Vermees, right? Peter, they were unhappy with Sporting KC. Was unhappy. The fans came out and said something, and then a few short weeks later, Peter was no longer with Sporting KC. So, they're not happy with the performance. Now, granted, they won on Saturday 2-0. They currently sit, I think, 5th in the USL Championship Eastern Division, right? So they sit in a pretty good, they're not in a bad spot, but they're 8-7-7. I mean, so, they start off, and they've been a team that starts off pretty hot, Nathan. They come in, a lot of times they start 5, 6, 7 wins, 5, 6, 7, 1, and then they kind of taper off as other teams start to figure out their thing. But, the one thing I want to say is this, and then we'll start talking about this, is they're saying this is from a place of love and not from malice. And I again, everything you know and you see from Northern Guard, whether you agree with their kind of their antics and their electricity and all the energy that they bring, and maybe the way in which they do it, the message has always been from the Northern Guard that they are all about love. But it's like anything, right? Me and you are friends, Nathan, right, on the air, right? Me and you are friends before we ever step onto a soccer field. But if me and you were to step on a soccer field, I would run through you on the way to get the ball. Like that's the Northern Guard. You know what I mean? Like they would. We're friends off the field. Right? I'll be friends with everybody, but during the game, I hate you. Like I hate you, and that's their message. They're like, we don't like you during the game, and they might not like other clubs at all after the game. But I'm just saying, like their message has always been, we love everybody, but during these 90 minutes, we're going to hate the other team. We're going to treat it like we don't like you. And they're a very unique fan supporter group in that way. And I think it would make them unique. And I think it's great. But let's talk this thing through.
No, they adopt the identity of what Detroit is, and I love it. I think they lean into it. I think they like the blue collar, hard nose. I mean, Detroit is a fan base in a sports town that is unapologetic. They are in your face. They're going to get under your skin. We saw that with the Lions before. We've seen that with other sports teams. Like, this is not a city where we lightly tiptoe around things. Like, they're going to get up in your chest. They're going to get up in your you-know-what, because that's just how they carry themselves in the Motor City. And so the Northern Guard is no different. I mean, just because they don't get as much media coverage, Detroit City FC, doesn't mean that their fans don't exactly embody what the Detroit sports fan base is, because we see that from everybody else in the Detroit sports scene. What I'll say is this: they say it comes from a place of love, and I agree, because hard love is still love. It doesn't mean it's not love. It just means that your expectations have not been met. And so we need to have a difficult conversation about where this thing is going, because you're right. If you want to dump millions of dollars into not only a new stadium in Alumni 5 Field, which is going to be in Corktown, beautiful facility, we've already showed it off. If you're going to do that, the team talk about their expectations and how they're falling short of where they need to be. Now, obviously, we're not Italy, but I've always said this before: if you don't have a passionate fan base, you don't have a team, right? They make everything go in terms of the product, in terms of the team. If the Ultras just disappear, you're not going to have a group. You're not going to have a club that succeeds. You're not going to be able to dump millions of dollars into a new stadium. You're not going to have any of this. So I am perfectly okay with a supporter group having expectations, and very clear-cut expectations. And that's where this is coming from. It's hard love, yes, but it's something that they want to see out of the club. And again, they're not going to pull any punches, right? Because they're from the Motor City. They don't care. Like, this is how they conduct themselves. But a couple of things. First of all, why people leave could be for various reasons, and I don't think that all of that has to be public information. I don't think the organization has any real legal obligation to put all of that out on the table, but it is a little suspicious. And obviously, when you grow emotionally attached to the people that lead that team, and all of a sudden they're not there, and you have all these fond memories, and you think that they were obviously extremely important in getting you to the point to where you are, to where you can do all these different things, I understand what their frustration is, and I understand why, maybe they weren't as transparent as what some people might think. I think they're just playing PR games. But when it all comes back to is restricting access to the public when it comes to that information that could easily be communicated. And I see this in my space with the baseball that I cover. Communication has become less and less. People have become more guarded, less open, not a play on words there with the Northern Guard, but Detroit City FC is no different. And so if this is information, and we've seen this over the course of years, right? It used to be that a lot of this stuff was kind of public information, but PR teams are getting more guarded now. They don't want to release certain things. They want to keep certain things maybe behind closed doors. But the truth is when you're dealing with a supporter group that's as passionate as the Northern Guard, they're going to figure you out pretty quick. They're not just going to let things kind of sit and marinate. And that's why we're running into this issue that we're seeing right now. The declining performance, JT, number one, I don't think they're a terrible team. I mean, I think they're middle of the pack. I would have expected them to be farther down the rankings if we're going to yell and complain about where their performance is. But again, it's high expectations. But declining performance is a byproduct of all those things that we just talked about maybe some of the drama within the front office, about the people who are really influential to Detroit City FC leaving way too early, and also restricting access to the Northern Guard. I mean, restricting communication. Like, it might be creating this kind of friction within that environment, within that front office, within that team, which is resulting in what we're seeing on the field. Now, I think they're still competitive. I think they're going to be competitive. But listen, hard love is still love at the end of the day. And that's what the Northern Guard is trying to get at. Like, hey, for the longest while, you guys did these things the right way, but now, okay, we're building a new stadium. We're doing all this other stuff. Don't go corporate on us. Don't start being too close to the vest to where you forget about the people that make this what it is, which is us, which is our group showing up and supporting. Because again, if they were to take that away or go on a strike or not show up, we wouldn't have Detroit City FC. So that's the way that I just kind of look at all that. And again, it is harsh, sure, but I felt like they packaged it up in a perfect way, and the club should understand if they know what's good for them.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't disagree. I think that again, and this is going to lead into our question of the day. And we'll get into that obviously towards the end of the show. But the ability that supporters groups have to be in the ear of their organization, their team in soccer, I think is very much unique to soccer. I'm not saying that these teams don't
100%.
hear from their fan bases in other sports. They, I think, hear from them in other ways. But in a lot of aspects, these supporter groups have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
They have these designated sections in their stadiums, that are built. And again, if you go to a Detroit City FC game, you can't go just sit with the Northern Guard. You have to be a supporter to go be over there. And they might be able to, sniff you out pretty quick if you're not, right? So I think that's something that's really kind of cool about soccer is that you do have like a seat at the table. And when that seat gets maybe a little further from the center, right? As you grow, you get more people, more chairs. When there's more chairs, you lose your voice a little bit. And when you lose your voice a little bit, what ends up happening, you start to feel a little like, okay, well, what's going on here? And we gotta raise our voices. We gotta start screaming. Gotta get a little louder. And this is the way of the Northern Guard getting louder. It's like, hey, the reason you're here is because of us. Let's put this where it is. Because without fans showing up to games, what makes you different than UPSL side team over here on the right? Nothing. Right? So it's like the reality is the supporters group is what got this team to where it's at. And if you don't, I always say this. I would say this as a coach before we head off and talk about and head to break and come back and talk about U.S. Women's National Team. As a coach, I knew that a lot of times parents, they just wanted to be heard.
Yeah.
They just wanted to be heard. And in most cases, like in most scenarios, most people just want to be heard. Whether you actually follow through on anything that they're asking of you, they want to be heard.
Yep.
And granted, obviously, eventually, if you don't, do anything they yell at you or tell you, then they're going to lose your respect. And then after that, then it's all downhill. But my point is that you have to at least be willing to listen and to hear what they're saying. And then from there, then let the rest kind of work its way out. This to me is like they don't feel like they're being heard anymore. I'll read this letter and say, you're not listening to us. We got you here. You owe us that. You owe us this chance to continue to have a communication with you. Do better.
Right.
And in turn, we're going to create an environment that you're not used to. And you're going to take notice. And so I applaud
I love it.
the Northern Guard, for that standpoint. Now, do I agree with everything the Northern Guard stands for? No, I do not. And it's not because I don't think that they're a great organization. But again, I just,
You're a family guy, though. You got standards.
It's just, hey, but again, to put that in perspective, it do better. Do better.
Yeah.
Speaking of better, coming up here on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about the top 5 U.S. Women's National Team moments of all time. What are they? I've got mine. Nate has his. You're going to find out what those are after this.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
Welcome back here into Inside the Game on this Monday morning. Hope you all had a great weekend. It is a start to your week, and what better way to start your week than talking about U.S. Women's National Soccer Team moments in history. Before we do that, though, at the bottom of your screen, all of our advertisers, anyone that's taken the time to say, hey, we want to do business with NSN, are at the bottom of your screen. So to learn more, you can check out their websites, but check them out. We just announced on Friday our new partnership with RFX and Recruit Fluency, right? And what they're doing there to help players get noticed across the country, getting in the email boxes of college coaches and universities all around the United States. So to learn more about them, you can head over to our website, to nationalsoccernetwork.com, and all the information you'd be looking for in regards to that. We announced, obviously, our SALT Athletic partnership last week. It was also announced on Friday as well, our production agreement with NISA and the NISA Pro Cup coming up here in October. So we're super excited about that. So all that information is available on our website, thenationalsoccernetwork.com. We can check out all the things related to news in this great sport of soccer. Now, before we put on the screen my graphic, me and you, Nathan, we went head-to-head here on our top 5 U.S. Women's National Team moments. Now, there are some very similar moments in our history of moments for the U.S. Women's National Team. And I am going to start with number 5. I always think it's good to go 5 first, and then make your way towards, make your way towards the top, as we should, right? They're going to be on your screen the same way as they are. But number 5 for me is redemption versus Japan. Carly Lloyd's brace gives the U.S. a 2-1 win over Japan for gold, avenging the 2011 finals loss. Again, and this was a huge moment. So redemption versus Japan in 2012 Olympics. Again, avenging a loss in 2011, right? And so big moment for the U.S. Women's National Team to get that off their back and get them ready. And what does this do? It sets them up in 2015. Carly Lloyd's hat trick comes in at number 4 in World Cup final, a 16-minute masterclass, including a midfield strike as the U.S. beat Japan's 5-2 to lift a World Cup for the first time in 16 years, right? So a huge moment for the U.S. Women's National Team. In 2011, right, we have the Wambach equalizer, right? 122nd minute equalizer versus Brazil. Megan Rapinoe's cross, Abby Wambach's header, and the legendary comeback to win in penalties. So that right there comes in at number 3. The first Women's World Cup. So the first ever World Cup in the history of the female game is owned by the U.S. Women's National Team. Was done in 1991. Michelle Akers scores twice in the final versus Norway, cementing the U.S. as a global powerhouse. I remember watching the documentary about this in regards to the 1999 Women's World Cup, and they talked about how they got off the plane and nobody even knew they existed, right? That was one of the things that Michelle Akers and all of them were talking about. Is like they just won this World Cup and no one knew about it, right?
Yeah.
So far, how far they've come, right? And then 1999, on U.S. soil, the most iconic celebration in women's soccer history as the U.S. beat China in penalties, and they did it before 90,000 fans at the Rose Bowl. Brandi Chastain putting home the final PK, ripping off her jersey. You see her black sports bra. She even talks about it, about how this moment, she's like, I was just wearing a sports bra. Like, but those are my top 5 moments. There are so many more that we could have picked from. I could have picked from in regards to these top 5, but those are mine. And the reason why number 1 is you win it on U.S. soil. I can't think of a more pure and perfect moment in the history to cement that moment as the number 1 moment in the history of U.S. Women's National Team.
Yeah, and to do it, you're right, to do it at home means everything. I mean, that's why we're obsessing so much about the 26 World Cup and the men's side, because it's different. It feels different. It looks different to do it here in the United States. But you're right. I mean, to knock it only down to 5 moments, I feel like is kind of disingenuous when it comes to the U.S. women's national team, because as we mentioned, there's a litany of moments we could choose from. I mean, from emerging initially to re-emerging after a gap of 16 years, as you mentioned, and then kind of reestablishing everything. I'll even say that when we talk about Emma Hayes too, because I know I posted about, the job that she's done in just 1 year with the U.S. women's national team. And I think my favorite thing about Emma Hayes is she considers herself an honorary American. She's not from here. She's from England, right? So she's not from the United States, but she considers herself, a part of this culture, a part of being an American. So she is an honorary American. So, hats off, Emma Hayes. We'll accept you with open arms because of the job that you've done. But she's not necessarily building a monster. She's reestablishing what was a monster in U.S. women's soccer. And so it builds off of all these moments that we see in front of us. And again, to our listeners, I feel like sometimes we might leave this team on the table in terms of talking about them more, only because, I think sometimes the soap opera that the U.S. men's team can be is leads to a little bit more in the way of talking points, because, again, we know exactly what to expect from the U.S. women's national team, and it's exactly what you see on your screen. But they looked primed to go back and win another one in 27.
That they do, and we'll now put up your top 5. We'll let you figure out, you explain as to why these are your top 5.
Yeah, so number 5, and I know that, there are people that fall on whatever side of the spectrum, whether you believe it's right or not. I thought that this was a massive step forward in the way of not only, you talked about being recognized, but just having people pay attention to the issues that really do matter. Because if you're going to go out and have as much success and win as much as this team did, we see the same fight in the WNBA as well. I mean, they're trying to get to a point now with how much popular that league has gotten, especially over the last couple of years with the stars like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers coming into the WNBA. You're getting more television ratings. You're getting more in the way of ticket sales. You're getting more in all of that stuff. So while I don't know if it's ever going to get to the stage of equal, at least not soon with the kind of contracts we see in the NBA, it is going to start trending in that direction, as it should, as it 100% should. But yeah, February 22nd, 2022, players for the U.S. women's national team made history, but obviously off the field, setting a class action gender discrimination lawsuit against U.S. Soccer Federation for $24 million. They later came to an agreement with the USSF that guarantees equal pay to both U.S. soccer teams through 2028, including the equalization of World Cup prize money, which I think is very important. I think that's a huge part of this conversation. The victory is just the beginning for equal pay in sports. Obviously, it kind of got the ball rolling in that way, and now we see the WNBA kind of joining that fight. So I think it's novel. I think it's something that is a long time coming. And again, I'm not trying to compare both sides, but, we can get into the economics of all this, but they deserve that money 100%. The other one that I have up on there is ending the World Cup drought. You and I talked about it. U.S. women's national team winning their first World Cup in 16 years since the 1999 season. During or after, over Japan, I should say. Carly Lloyd completing the hat trick, lead the team to the 5-2 victory. With this win, the new generation of U.S. women's soccer really cemented itself. That's that kind of we're back moment. So that one, to be as successful as they were initially, to go away for a little bit, and then to come back with a vengeance, it just kind of reestablished their foothold on the world of soccer. The save heard around the world from Hope Solo in number 3. Hope Solo is one of my favorite all-time players. Yeah, there's a little bit of bias, I feel like, in this selection. This one probably could have been lower on the list, but Hope Solo is one of my favorite. And it was called the save heard around the world for good reason. I mean, with only 5 minutes left to go in a gold medal match, 2012 Summer Olympics between Japan and the U.S., part of that redemption tour, Japan's, I don't even know how to pronounce that name, but had to score a goal between Japan and the U.S., part of that redemption tour. Japan's, I don't even know how to pronounce that name, but had to score a goal, and Hope Solo made an epic. Seeing the replay, actually go watch that, because that turned her into a viral sensation. That one save kind of launched her into the right direction. Olympic gold in 1996. Part of this is because I was born in 1996. So, I just thought I would work that one in there. But that's right up there, you feel like, with 1999. So, and that was, for them, I believe that was their first ever Olympic gold, correct? In 96? I think that's what that was. So you put number one in terms of the gold medal, and then obviously number one in terms of the World Cup, because we live in a society where everything is based on, did you win it all? Did you win the big one? And you can be a really successful side, you can get really far, but if you don't ever actually win the prize, whether that be a gold medal around your neck or whether that be a World Cup championship, I'm not necessarily convinced that anyone's really going to take you seriously or remember you as being a great team or a legendary team. To get there is one thing, but to win it is to launch yourself into a new stratosphere of respect and people revering you. And those two moments, the first World Cup in 1991 showed that the U.S. women's national team is here, and that we're kind of blazing the trails in terms of the women's side of the sport. Because let's admit, like we had the training, we had the players, we had everything else, and it kind of forced, like we talked about, the remainder of the world to step it up in terms of developing and opening up opportunities for the women's side of the game. Like the U.S. women's national team, in a lot of ways, kind of ushered in that generation of, we got to get women's sports to that next level. And they did it through the World Cup in 91, and they did it through winning gold in 1996. So I don't really think there's any other way you can move those two around. I think they have to be number one and number two, respectively. But the other one, Save Heard Around the World by Hope Solo, that's one of the best individual moments in U.S. women's national team history. Ending the World Cup drought just showed that they were back, that it wasn't a farce, that it wasn't just a one-off. They were reestablishing their dominance, and I think Emma Hayes is doing that now actively in real time. And then obviously the equal pay agreement, this is, if you win at a high level the way that they have, and you have grown a fan base and have grown a culture, a soccer culture in the United States that, again, stands alone. And this is why when we have these conversations about what do young high school athletes want to do, do they want to stick around in the United States or do they want to go to Europe? Again, on the boys' side, it's a completely different conversation than we're talking about on the women's side. On the women's side, some of the best talent in the world is right here in the U.S. And I think a lot of that comes back to them demanding their piece of the pie. And I think that really kind of rallied a lot of people around the women's game in the U.S., and it's led to this juggernaut that we've seen. Now, I know that's been years in the making, and obviously this agreement was only, 3 years ago? So clearly we're a little farther down the line. But their willingness to stand up for themselves and be like, hey, we deserve a piece of this pie just as much as the men do, I thought was equally as important. So, yeah, that's my top five.
No, again, there were a couple in there that I didn't have, and I think obviously a couple in mine that you didn't have. But again, all of these could be interchangeable. Nothing about these should be permanent in the sense that these are how they're going to be. And again, history still has a chance to write itself in a new way, right? In 27 and
Trust that it
how
will.
Things shake up. So the good list, I think, either way. You can actually check out this full list and our reasons behind it on our website, thenationalsoccernetwork.com. Here, that'll be released here a little bit later this morning. Coming up here, though, in our last segment here of the morning, the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association have announced the Week 1 rankings. We used to release those live on Sunday nights, but now we release them here after the fact here on Monday mornings. We'll go through all 4 divisions here on the other side of the break. You're watching Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs. From high-quality production to exceptional coverage, we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today. Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Welcome back here on this Monday morning. We're ready to dive into the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association Week 1 rankings. And I said it as we were going to break how we used to release these rankings on Sunday nights. And, you know, there'll be another show that I'll dedicate to all of this. But what I think is important is that I went to the Coaches Association 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago. I'd reached out to them and said, hey, I would love to highlight the high school game here in Michigan when it comes to soccer in a way that's never been done before. And I think there was some hesitancy because they were like, what is this all about? Like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to do this, and this. I want to do a ranking show. Like, well, what does that even mean? There was a lot of like, whatever. We did it, right? For the next 3 years, we did ranking shows. And every Sunday night, we would do 8 in the fall and then 8 in the spring. So 16 shows a year. And we'd sit up here in our studios and we would just talk about the high school game in a way that's never been done before. I did it alongside Dan Stickrat, and it was great. And, you know, last year they came to me and said, hey, they wanted to open it up to other entities to be able to, you know, I guess share some of the share. They say sharing is caring. I don't know if that's true or not. They didn't say that. I'm just saying they say sharing is caring.
Sometimes.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Anyways, I was upset about that because I'm like, hey, we are the ones that came to. We created something that's never been done before, and now you want to maybe give it to somebody else as well. And it was kind of like, and so we were like, okay, fine. You know, we want whatever. We'll do this. And then, you know, ultimately, we decided to continue to go forward in the spring, and the other entities that were being given the rights to do a show weren't actually doing a show. They were just posting it on social media. And if Nathan, we can talk about this all day long, but if I'm going to do a fully produced show that took us 12 hours on Sundays, and at 8 o'clock, at the exact time I'm doing my show, the full rankings come out from another place, why would you tune into what I'm doing? Like, I mean, you got other things you can do. I mean, a 30-second post, you know, you're done. I'm on my way. Oh, we're ranked? Great. We're moving on. I mean, we lost a ton of viewers over it. And so I'm like, I'm not going to continue to do this if this is what we're going to do, especially if we were being told it was going to be other live shows. Like, other shows were coming and no other shows happened. And, you know, so we ultimately said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours every Sunday to do this. And so we didn't. And, you know, last night, the rankings came out. They came out at 8 o'clock or so, same way they were coming out in the spring. And I'm like, okay, so they're not even doing a live show anymore. And I sent the Coach Association a message last night saying, hey, I mean, look at where we are. We're back to where we were before I started doing this, all because you wanted to open this up to other places to do this. And they're not doing anything better. They're just doing it the way it used to be done. But, you know, I go, look, what a shame. What a shame that we don't do a show anymore. And you're saying, well, John, you can still do a show. Yeah, for what reason? What? So I can work my ass off on Sunday so another organization can take 5 minutes of their time to build a meme and push it out to social media? Why would I do that? Why would we invest? We invested over $100,000 into that program. I want to put that in perspective. Over $100,000 went into that program. And I'm saying that this morning because the soccer players in the state of Michigan should be so upset about this. Not at me. Now you can be mad that I didn't follow through and continue to do this, but I'm in business. I can't just throw money away, right? And so you should be mad about this because there's no reason it had to happen that way. And this is not me like shitting on the Coaches Association. This is what happened. You're right. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying that I don't know why we're even here in the first place. We went backwards. The state of Michigan went backwards after we came up with a great opportunity to showcase players in this cool way. And now we're not. Now it's not happening at all, and no one's doing it. So step up. Other organizations who said they wanted this, go do your show. Go do it. Step up. Right? Rise to the occasion, everybody. Like, rise up, man. Like, what the heck? Doesn't take much. Believe you me. Doesn't take much. I did it for better part of 3 years. Anyways, let's dive in Division 4, shall we? Your Division 4 rankings. Look at that, man. Lansing Christian atop as number 1 in the state of Michigan. Right? You got Plymouth Christian, Grosse Pointe University, Liggett. We talked about that. David DeWay, his last season at their Royal Oak Shrine right there at 7. They've been to a bunch of finals over the years. Roper. You got, again, a really, really good good Division 4 look here. Again, Clark's Everest Collegiate, they're always in that conversation in Division 4 as well. So those are your Division 4 rankings. Nathan, anything standing out there on your end?
Well, Plymouth Christian looked really good a year ago. I got to cover them. It was Detroit Cristo Rey that ended up beating them in the game that I did. So that's when I thought Cristo Rey had a chance to maybe roll on to a state championship. Obviously didn't end up working out that way, but it's clear that they've brought back a lot of depth this season. So Plymouth Christian obviously right back in the fight. I think Western Michigan Christian being in number 9, I think maybe is a little bit low for them. I don't know if they just haven't started the season nearly as hot as what they normally have, but that's a squad that, again, looking at what they did last year, getting to a state championship and winning it, I mean, they looked like they were primed to continue to make runs back. But yeah, North Muskegon, no shock, they're up there. That doesn't really shock me at all. Lansing Christian has proven that they're arguably the best team in Division 4. But again, we'll see how it all plays out down the end of the line. But I think if I'm going to give one the nod, I think Plymouth Christian is definitely up there because I saw a lot of good things from them last year. They just their back line didn't really hold up against Cristo Rey. Cristo Rey was very creative with the ball on their feet. Like I saw that entire game. So again, we'll see how all this works out. But, I definitely think it's an accurate list, albeit I would put probably Western Michigan Christian a little bit higher on my Division 4 rankings.
No doubt. Let's take a look here now at Division 3. It'll be on your screen here now. Division 3, Country Day, sitting atop. They're right above Flint Powers. Notre Dame Prep, your reigning Division 3 state champions. Their first time ever in school history. Grand Rapids West Catholic, Ann Arbor Green Hills, Alma, Grosse Ile, who's always in the conversation, been to a state final. I can't tell you how many times over the last 10 years. Swan Valley, Grass Lake, Kingsford, Ovid, Elsie, and Grand Rapids Catholic Central, all in the top 15. Frankenmuth, who's been a staple now, I feel like, in the rankings, again sitting there at number 8.
Yeah, and you have your far and away like givens in this list. Detroit Country Day is a given. Flint Powers has been very good. They're a given in the top 5. Notre Dame Prep, I don't know how you can't put them in the top 5 after what they did last year. I mean, they rolled to a state final. West Catholic surprised me a little bit. I know they've gotten a lot better, and I know certain members of their coaching staff and people that are in that high school. I just wasn't aware. I wasn't aware that they had built and they had developed to the point to where they got themselves into their top 5. I mean, I used to call games for that team when I was over at Caledonia doing games routinely. I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with their game. So that's kind of the one shock, I think, in terms of that top 5. Ann Arbor, Green Hills, you talked about the reputation Frankenmuth has, Grosse Ile, how many state titles they've been to. Grand Rapids Catholic Central has been moving in the right direction for a long time with how much they've invested in athletics and facilities and everything else like that. But I think if there's one division in the state where there were a lot of teams that were givens for this top 15, this is it. And I think it's a fairly accurate top 5. I hope that West Catholic does well, but I just don't know enough about them to be able to put my finger on whether or not they're going to be actually able to make it to the end of the line. But that's a fairly accurate list. No doubt in my mind, Country Day at least should be number 1 in Division 3.
Again, they went all the way to a state final back in 2023. They fell short to Hudsonville Unity Christian. Then Pontiac Notre Dame Prep last year beat Elk Rapids by a score of 3-2. So those are your Division 3. We'll take a look now here at Division 2. And again, Warren De La Salle, who had won their first state championship in quite some time. I think the last time they had won one, we looked at it before, was back in, let's see here.
2007, I believe.
I think it was 2005. No, when did they win it here? I'm looking at the wrong division. No, Warren De La Salle. They were in Division 1. So I want to say it was back in 2005 is when they had actually won it because their enrollment has shrunk, obviously. It was 2005. They beat Brother Rice 1-0. So, again, they're sitting atop the table there. Unity Christian right below them. Forest Hill Central, who's starting off to a really good start. Paul Kramer has his team doing really well this season, as he has in the past. Divine Child, New Boston Huron, Allendale, which is a preview story here on Saturday. Cranbrook, Forest Hills Northern, Muskegon Reeths Puffer, Grand Rapids Christian, again, who has they won a state championship back in 2023. So, again, a very, very good top 15. St. Joseph, Mason, Walled Lake Western, and DeWitt, all there at Division II and top 15.
And I'm interested to see how that Forest Hills Central, Forest Hills Northern matchup goes this year. That decides a lot. Like between them, Northern, and then you factor in Grand Rapids Christian, that's a scary three right there, man, to be in the top 15. And they've all kind of gone back and forth. They've kind of passed wins and losses off to each other. But Forest Hills Central has a level of depth, and after getting to cover that team and Paul Kramer's squad last year, I saw a lot of potential in that group, and they've returned a lot of good pieces, and they move really well off the ball. Their build-up is great. They had some younger players. They had some freshmen and some sophomores sprinkled in there. So in terms of a top-to-bottom depth perspective, I think Central has the best argument of anybody to make a run towards the state championship. Now the issue is they have to get past Northern, because Northern kind of shocked them last year. They have to get past Holland. Now, I don't know what to expect out of Holland here this season, because they didn't look great. I mean, at least from the little bit that I saw from them last year, Central ran them out of the building. So that's a team that historically has a lot of history behind them, but will they be able to make all of that stand tall this year? Who knows? But some others that aren't a shock. Unity Christian being number 2 is not a shock to the system at all. Divine Child, New Boston Huron, I think all of them deserve a spot in the top 5. Allendale, we'll see. I mean, I think Allendale's kind of an unproven product this year. Clearly, they've shown a lot of promise, so there's a lot to like about that team. Same with Grand Rapids Christian. They can just be streaky. I think that's their issue sometimes, is they get very, very streaky. But in terms of Lansing area, DeWitt is in the conversation. I think Walled Lake Western has shown some promise as well. But, I mean, if you want me to pick a favorite, it probably comes down to either Forest Hills Central. And I think Warren De La Salle, I think after winning that state title last year, that's just going to continue to launch them in the right direction. And they showed a lot in that game. And I think they handled it pretty much from beginning to end. They played Elk Rapids, wasn't it, in the state championship? I think that's who it was. Yeah, it just seemed like it seemed like they couldn't even be on the same field as De La Salle. They just played that game so fast and so technically sound. So I do think it's going to be an interesting, in terms of parity, I love Division II.
We now head into Division I here as, again, Portage Central makes their way up to that number 1 spot. And the shocker in this one is, where's Rochester Adams? Did not make it into the top 15 here at all. And, again, we can talk about why that is. They lost a chunk of their team, this season. And so, but number 1, Portage Central. Number 2 is Clarkston. You've got number 3, Troy Athens, who is 2 years removed from a state championship. Okemos, Ann Arbor Huron, Byron Center, Troy High, ranked number 7, Heartland 8, Saline 9, 10, Ann Arbor Skyline, 11, Hudsonville, 12, Salem, Traverse City West is 13, Plymouth 14, and Romeo 15th. And I think it's important. A year ago, the first rankings coming out August the 26th, though, this is a year ago. Northville was ranked number 1, Adams 2, Portage Central 3, Plymouth was 4, Troy was 5, Troy Athens was 14. Interesting how a year can shake things up. But yeah, no Rochester Adams at all in the rankings here in Division I.
And when you lose as many good pieces as they did, I guess I understand why. That was something that I talked about the last time we mentioned Division I. Like, they just lost a lot of really good, solid pieces from that team a season ago. So that's something that Adams is going to have to prove everybody wrong on. Like, that's just kind of the way it goes. Like, they had they had the Avengers last season. Like, let's be honest. I think that was the comparison that I drew to Adams a season ago. They had the Avengers on the field, and so it's tough to beat the Avengers. But now, who's coming up behind them? I don't know. That's the question. Do you have your next crop of superstars back behind that group? They're going to have to prove a lot of that. Portage Central is on a mission this year, man. I think they're 5-0 already to begin the year. What, they beat Rockford 5-0 to begin the season? I mean,
Yeah, they're
come
6-0.
on now. Right? Yeah, or 6-0.
Clarkson
Check
is
that.
3-0.
Yeah.
Troy Athens is 2-0. I mean, the season's just getting started.
Yeah.
We always talk about
Oh,
this.
yeah,
What's happening
but
right now. In
They
the whole
ran
scheme
Rockford
of
off
things.
the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's meaningless in week 1, more meaningful in week 7, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
But those are your Division 1 rankings here, presented by Salt Athletic, our official partner here for all things soccer gear when it comes to stopping the smell. Hey, we're going to lead into our question of the day, and before we dive into that, though, again, we always say, when it comes to the question of the day, who is it brought to you by? It is brought to you by Salt Athletic, our official sponsor. Save 15% by using the promo code NSN15, and that by visiting saltathletic.com or scan the QR code on your screen. And yes, you can get this smell-proof cleat bag or goalkeeper glove bag and save 15% off by using promo code NSN15. So we appreciate Salt and everything they're doing for us, our official sponsor of Question of the Day, which leads us to our question. Do supporter groups have too much power? And it's supporter groups and or fans. Do they, in fact, have too much power? And Nathan, I'll lead it with you first, and then I'll get into it myself.
Hey, man, I'm all for power for the people, okay? I'm all for power for the people that keep the lights on, that keep the water running, that keep the food coming, that continue to fill out the stands and make your team matter. Listen, when you exist in Detroit and you're operating the way that they do, and you're soccer in the United States, the people that drive the car are the supporter groups. You're not the NFL, which means you're not corporate. Listen, if the general fan for the Lions stopped showing up and the only people that went to games were people who could comfortably afford tickets as well as corporations, they would probably still be okay. They would probably still find a way to fill that thing out because nobody can afford tickets to begin with, because it's all group tickets now. It's all corporations. It's all suit and tie at a lot of NFL stadiums now. Now, I'm not saying they're all the same way, right? But this is, generally speaking, that's what it is. I think some NFL teams can maybe get away with it. Now, if people stopped buying tickets and stopped showing up, that's a different story. But in soccer, you're not corporate. You need to rely on the people who work those 9-to-5 jobs, who make the time out to be a part of these supporter groups and to march from whatever bar that they meet in order to continue to have success as a club and continue to build as a club, financially speaking, and everything else. The supporters make you relevant. So I don't think they have too much power. Just to be honest with you, I don't know if they have any power. I think they make themselves have power. I think they put the onus and the focus on the group themselves, and they go, listen, you're going to listen to what we want, or it's not going to go well, or things are going to go sideways. So do they have the ability to make things go sideways? Yes, but I think that's power that inherently fans and fan supporters and fan groups have. I don't think it was something that was bestowed upon them. I think that's something that they just own because they realize how important they are to it. Like, listen, man, the media, you're Mike Valenti the other day trolling Detroit City FC about their stadium expansions. Like, no one in the media on that side of the coin is going to stand up for you and make you relevant. What makes you relevant are the supporter groups. So you better hear us, you better communicate well, and you better give us a seat at the table, because if you don't, it's probably not going to go well.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. But here's where I look at this. I talked about in the whole message when we were talking about the Northern Guard here earlier. Detroit City FC would not be here if it weren't for the Northern Guard. They wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. Their growth, the amount of people who show up to these games. I mean, they are the driving force behind Detroit City's growth. And we could argue all the right moves and the great steps that the organization has taken off the field with personnel, with advertisements, with partnerships that have made the organization great. But without the supporters group showing up each and every game, that game is nothing worth going to. And so do I think that they have too much power? I don't think they have enough power. right? I think that every supporters group in the country needs to be sitting at a table in the front office. I actually feel like they should actually have an office inside of the building, be in there. That sounds crazy.
Sport.
They should not get paid. It's almost like an auditor for the SEC, right? Got to be there. You can't talk with anybody. You just have to walk around, look around, just kind of paid like an auditor. Like that's what the supporter group should be able to do. They should have somebody there who just their whole job is to sit there all day long and just be accessible. That's what it. Because again, without them, we talked about this. There are 40 other amateur teams in Metro Detroit right now that would love nothing more than to become the next Detroit City FC.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're missing? A supporters group. They're missing that component. And matter of fact, every team in America that is aspiring to be the next Detroit City FC is craving what the Northern Guard offers. So no. Do they have too much power? No. I mean, just like with everything, they say great power comes great responsibility. I think the Northern Guard has a job, and I think fan groups all across the country and support groups have a job to use their power responsibly. But without them, Detroit City FC would not be getting a $150 million stadium. And it's real easy as you get big. It's real easy over the years, just like the Cracker Barrel did on this past week by changing their logo and changing the redesign of their building. They have lost the grip with their base. And that herein lies the problem in this country and around the world. We have focused so much on growth that we forget our base. We forget what got us there.
Right.
This is why you might say, well, why are you guys doing rankings on a Monday on a national platform? You know why? Because we haven't forgotten our base.
Yeah.
We have not. I'm not going to forget Michigan. It started here. Michigan will always be something that we focus on. You know, it will always be part of our base. And so fundamentally, you might say, well, why you forget? No, we didn't forget anything. We have a lot more things that we're covering, but Michigan will always be right where it needs to be. And so Detroit City FC, do better, right? Yeah. And Northern Guard, keep doing what you do, you know. And again, use your power responsibly. It's a great power, comes great responsibility. I know that wasn't just a line in a comic book movie, but
it's a good poll, though.
But yeah, hey, we got a great week of stuff for you this week. Tomorrow, we'll dive into the top 5 U.S. men's national team moments of all time. On Wednesday, we'll dive into the ultimate team. Who is the ultimate U.S. women's national team? If you could take all the players of all the years since 1991, who would that lineup look like on the field for your starting 11? We'll talk about that on Wednesday. We'll also do it for the men's side on Thursday, all leading up to who me and Nate think will be starting on the 2026 U.S. men's national team World Cup rosters here in just under 10 months. So I'm looking forward to this week. It's going to be a great week. But episode number 144 officially is in the books. Want to thank our producer stepping in this morning, Mr. Nathan Turner. We appreciate you stepping in, Nathan. Great job. Great job. There he
boy,
is.
Nate.
He is. Yeah. He'll be back here tomorrow morning. He's excited about that, I think. So 144 is officially in the books. Nathan, man, another great show. I really do, again, love the new look and feel. I think, you know, we've really stepped it up, and we continue, I think, to do really cool things.
It's fun. It's a fun time to be following the game, and obviously we're getting into some interesting stuff. So, yeah, let's keep it rolling. Shout out Nate, too, by the way. Best first name in the world, best producer in the world. Let's go.
No doubt about that. Well, hey, we appreciate you stopping by here today. Again, episode number 144 is in the books. Want to shout out again to my beautiful wife for her birthday today. Happy birthday, Bianca. We love you and look forward to spending some time with you tonight and celebrating that birthday. But 144 in the books, 145 back in tomorrow morning. Same time, same place as we talk about the U.S. men's national team top 5 moments in history and so much more. For Nathan Wengler, I'm Jonathan Turner. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game. From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wengler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.